Well, hobbyists, you guys really seem to enjoy my tank painting videos. That, of course, being the Sherman and the King Tiger. So I thought, hey, let's paint up another tank, but this time from Warlord Games' Konflikt 47, and that tank being a Zeus-X with heavy rail gun. Well, hobbyists, welcome back to another Getting on the Tabletop. As I stated in the intro, today we are working on a Zeus-X tank with a heavy railgun from Germany, set in the Weird War game of Konflikt 47. Now, Konflikt 47, just so you know, is a Weird War era game where World War II has bled into 1947. And thanks to nuclear testing from Germany and America, they opened wormholes in space and time that allowed the world to grasp the technology of futuristic weapons, railguns, stealth technology, walkers and tanks that very much are just sci-fi. So in 1947, Russia split away from America and Great Britain. I don't know if they're working with Germany, but anyways, all the powers have their own new technological advancements, new soldiers, heavy soldiers, different weapons and all of that. So this is the pieces of a Zeus-X. Now there are a couple of different Zeuses. There's a Zeus Panzer, and then there's a heavy Panzer. But anyways, the railgun one intrigued me the most. So we have all the pieces here. We have all 6 legs. We have the body, we have the gun, and we have the little mount front for it as well, like the plow. This is all resin, so I did already clean this up, shaved it all away, glued it all together, and then as you can see I have glue tack here because we are going to be doing an airbrush for the first thing. Now if you see I've already primed it in skeleton bone, that's because the color scheme we are going to be using is the same for our King Tiger, being the late era war color scheme. Since it's 1947, we consider this to be the late era of the war. I decided, you know what, that'd be pretty cool to do a late era war scheme on this tank. So that's what we are going to do. So, unlike the King Tiger, in which I just kind of went with my airbrush and kind of just created my own lines and my own little natures and all that, this time I've decided to use some blue tack, or fun tack as I got it from Walmart, and covered up the areas that I am going to paint green. So, anywhere that the glue tack is covering is going to be staying that bone color, and then in between it will be the green. So for instance, this leg here, we're just going to put some green down between these parts, and that's really it. Again, we're going to do the striping in between the main body, striping for the turret, striping for the plow in the front, and all the different little striping mechanics for the legs, so they can give it some individuality. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using the same paint scheme and colors that we did for our King Tiger. So if you like that King Tiger paint scheme, I think this will be a really cool paint scheme for this tank as well. But we're going to do some extra stuff because we do have a railgun to paint up. So we're going to do some cool effects for the railgun as well. So first we gotta get the stripes down on our model first, and to do that we'll be using the same color that we used for our King Tiger, that being Army Green Air Primer. Again, I am doing an airbrush. Do not feel compelled to use an airbrush. If you want to use a sponge method, if you want to use just a paintbrush, you can do all of that. Again, Army Green does come in its own dropper bottles, so you can also get it that way, or heck, if you're very precise with an aerosol can, you can actually probably do this with an aerosol can. Just cover up the areas that you don't want the green to get onto, and then you go outside with a primer can, a rattle can of Army Green, and just spray it over. It works the same way as an airbrush does. Also just cheaper than anything else. So I'm gonna prep my workstation, and then we're gonna move right into doing the air brushing. So see you all there. Well, we completed up the striping for our Zeus-X tank here. So after I did all the airbrushing, I peeled away the blue tack. As you can clearly see, there's none on these models, but I will let you know, when peeling away that blue tack, you want to do it very carefully and probably slow so you don't peel away your paint that you just completed and the primer under it. But also when you're peeling it away, if you happen to notice that there's still like blue tack sticking itself to the model, just roll up some blue tack and then dab it across those parts and now pull it up. So anyways, we have very good coating here as we take just a gander at the main body, a gander at the main gun here. Very nice, very nice. Here's the front shield. Overall, very nice. And then of course, each of the legs. Overall, the blue tack was a great idea. I didn't use it for my King Tiger because I headcanoned my King Tiger was to be rushed on the battlefield. So I wanted to try it this time with this tank and it came out really, really great. If you get some spillage over some parts that you don't want the green on, you can go back and touch it up with a skeleton bone. Remember, all Army Painter primers are one-to-one with their dropper bottle compatriots. So, very, very nice. And also if you want to like firm up the green or anything like that, again, the Army Painter Army Green that we used in the Air version is the same as the dropper bottle version. We are completely done with the legs. There's nothing else for the legs to do. We're going to chip up the legs later on, but there's nothing else for us really to do with the legs. There's no other colors we're going to do for the legs, no other things we're going to do for the legs. They're just going to be the legs. So we're going to push the legs away and deal with only really, actually we're also going to push this away because there's not much to deal here, and we're only going to deal with the turret and the body of the tank. So these are the last two areas we have to work on, the main body and the turret. So first, let's do our Necromancer cloak for our turret and our turret. So I got our body here, and the only thing again we're going to be picking out the body is the turret here, so the main body turret, and then of course each of these stacks in the back, and then make sure you flip the tank over and you get the stacks under here. So you get those as well because they do bleach up into here, so you want to make sure you catch both of those together. For the turret, here we're only going to be doing the machine gun right here, and that is it. So just take your time, work through the Necromancer cloak, and get a nice coat down on everything. So we finished up our Necromancer cloak, as we can see here on the turret and mounted to the body of the tank. And of course then our two, all our little stuff back here, the pistons that pump out the smoke and all that. And then here it is on our turret head, of course, for that pinto mounted machine gun right there. So next we're going to deal with one more piece of the body of the tank before we move on to doing the entirety of the turret of the tank, and that's going to be these little searchlights. Now, when we're done with the tank, we're going to put this piece, this I guess you could say, what would this be called? A plow. Let's just call it a plow. Onto the tank like this. You're not really going to be able to see those if you're looking at like from above or you're from the side. You're not going to see those lights. So do not feel compelled to paint them. Mainly because again, this plow will cover them up when this is looking. If you didn't want the plow, because I think the plow could probably be not mandatory, we are going to stick it on ours, then you'd probably want to paint these. But again, since this will be on the front of it, there's really no way, unless you're going to flip the entire tank over, that someone's going to see it. So feel free to skip this step altogether if you don't want to do it because of our front little plow thing, and it's going to be here and no one's really going to be able to see our lights. But I'm going to do them just for the aesthetic, just so I have it fully painted. So for those lights, we are going to use pure red. I like the red lights because I want to give this a more menacing glow to it. Again, this is going to be covered up, so I'm just going to do a layer of red just so if someone does happen to see it, at least there's that red in there. But we're not gonna do anything else fancy. We're not gonna do the highlights we like to do for lenses and stuff like that because there's really no point. I'm just gonna put a red glow in there just so it's aesthetic. So I'm gonna put some pure red in these two and call that good. There we are, we've finished up, of course, both of the lenses. Again, this is all we're gonna do for them. If you want to go further, you could put a red wash in there and then put little white dots in there again to give the illusion of light. But again, because these are immediately going to be covered up by this front part right here. Yep, as you can see, front part right here. And again, the only way to see that would be to flip it over. That's all I'm really going to do for this. There's not really another reason. If you didn't want to use this front part, then I would say red wash it. Do the half moons of probably you'd want to go maybe a lighter red under there than a dot of white scar or matte white, whatever white you have on hand. And I also do like a red wash in here to give those lights just another look. And then after you varnished all the model, I would art coat both of them to give them that glossy look like searchlights. But again, we're not going to be doing all that because again, it's going to immediately be covered and I see no reason to overcomplicate a piece of area of a tank that's not even going to be seen on a tabletop. Again, even looking at it from the sides, you're not going to be picking it up in any physical way. But I still want the aesthetic that the lights are actually done in there. So that is the entirety of our body of our tank. Now, you can, if you want to, start gluing all the pieces together. You can glue all 6 legs into place and then glue the front part here into place because again, we're going to do an entire wash of the tank, but I'm going to wait a little while longer until I actually do the dry brushing of these parts. But you can put it all together for yourself if you want to now, but I'm gonna wait till I do a dry brushing of gunmetal to highlight up the weapons before we get into the washing step. Again, much like you've seen other videos, we don't normally highlight then wash. Again, I'm following the same method I used for my 𝐒𝐓𝐾𝐃 tank. So we're going to highlight then wash to give it the grimy, dirty look. So let's put away the body of the tank and get to the turret of the tank. So we have our turret. So there's not really much else to finish up for this turret, but we have a few parts. First up, we gotta do some brown for the stock. We gotta paint up all the little rivets in here blue, and then we're going, and then paint the inside of that white as well. And then we're going to do a very interesting method to give us a blue glow to this. And then we're going to, of course, dry brush and highlight both the pinto mounted machine gun here, and then of course, like I said, we will then give it a full wash. We won't be gluing this down to the turret or the body. We're going to leave it to just swivel around just like the other tanks have. So we're going to leave this completely unglued once we assemble up the tank. So let's get the back of the stock of our gun done, and to do that we will be using dirt spatter. And of course, I forgot this thing wasn't even on. So again, it's just a little stock on the back of the pinto mounted machine gun. So I've zoomed it in here just so I can give you a better look at the stock of our pinto mounted machine gun here. As you can see, it's very, very nice looking. So anyways, now let's get on to this part of the gun, the rail part of it, basically the energy area where the energy would flow through and then bang, it would shoot out. Basically, if you don't know, a rail gun is basically a gun that fires pure energy. At least the sci-fi has told me that. So these rivets right here are where some of the blue energy will be coming out of. We're gonna have blue energy, of course, coming out of the tip there because that's where, you know, it fires out. Now, you can do any color you want for your railgun. Pinks, purples, greens, blues, reds, whatever you feel like. Process is still the same. We're still gonna paint these up white and the inside of the gun white, because then we're going to glaze over the white with the blue so that we can bring out that color. So that's why we have to paint stuff white so we can glaze over it. If you wanted to just keep it like this and call that good, then go right ahead. You could also just paint each of the little rivets blue and then the inside of that blue, and you could call that good as well. I'm gonna do the method of painting these white and then glazing a blue over it to give it a subtle blue glow to it. So first, let's paint up the white, and to do that, we'll be using matte white. So when working through the white, just be very, very careful because of all the striping that you have going on here to just get on those little rivets in there and then the inside of your turret. Again, because we're using Army Painter paints and they have a 1-to-1 match, you can just fix up the skeleton bone and the Army Painter, the Army Green, I guess you should say. I don't know why I keep calling the green Army Painter. That's the company, the Army Green, and then you are, of course, all good. So just take your time working through all the little rivets with the matte white. Well, folks, there we are. We completed up the white, of course, on the two sides here, and then, of course, in the gun. I don't know if my camera's gonna pick it up. I don't know how well my camera will pick it up, but there is white in there. And of course, like I said, we do have the two sides done as well. Now, I did paint up like on top of the sides here. So you can see like right here, that is like the main color. And then under that would be this lip right there. I did paint that up white, as well as painting up the sides of the inside of the gun white as well. Now, let's get that glow on there. And we're gonna do a blue glow because I like blue. Now, you could easily do this with a wash. Dragunov Nightshade, any blue washes can work for you to do it. Or you can turn any paint into a glaze. And we are going to turn a paint into a glaze, that paint being the blue. Now, how do you turn the blue into a glaze? Well, as you know, we water down paint so that we can thin it, so that we can put it on our models. And again, it doesn't, get goopy, doesn't fill, all the cracks and crevices, doesn't cover up, all that stuff. So we're just going to thin this paint down to a very watery consistency. Once you have it down to a good watery consistency, then we're going to put it over our sides here, over this, and into here. And that will give us our blue glow for our railgun. Now again, you can do this with any paint. So you want the railgun to be blue, orange, green, red, purple, whatever it is. Also, you can transfer this idea as well to any other models. Any sci-fi models that have glowing plasma coils or anything like that, you can do this same method for those. So if you're a 40K fan and you want to paint like plasma guns, you can do this same method to do that. And that's what we're going to do here. So just thin down your deep blue to a nice watery consistency to look like a glaze, and then just spread it over the white sections, let it dry, and you're good to go. So see you once we complete that. So there we are. We finished up the glaze there. As you can see, you can still see the white through the blue, but that's kind of what I wanted to happen. Again, this is a glaze. You can get the same effect with a wash. Just be cautious of how much wash you use. I just prefer to put it as a glaze. Now, you can use glazes as washes as well. So if you have a light blue color and you want to use, say, a dark blue paint, just saturate it with a bunch of water to turn into a glaze, and then you can glaze over that. Glazes are very, very nice to replace washes. So if you don't have a wash, once again, you can just thin down a paint with enough water to turn it into a glaze. So again, we got a nice looking effect there with the gun. Again, the white coming through. Again, that's what we wanted. We don't want a heavy blue tinge on there. We just want to show a effect of like a glowing effect, and that's what the glazing does for us. Now we're going to highlight and then move into, of course, washing the entire model, chipping the model, and gluing everything together. So let's do our two highlights. First, we have, of course, our gunmetal highlight. That, of course, being for our machine gun here and the back of our tank body, and then our pintle-mounted machine gun up here. And to do that, we will be using gunmetal. Then, of course, for our stock on our pintle-mounted machine gun, we will be using fur brown. Now, I'm going to dry brush on the gunmetal for all the metal parts. This, and then I'm going to do a edge highlight for the stock on the weapon. So just take your time, do dry brush, do a edge highlight depending on which one you prefer for both of these items, and then we can wash them up. So we've completed up all of our highlights here on everything that is Necromancer cloak on this, that being the machine gun in the front and the pipes in the back. Then of course we did it on our machine gun and the stock here. So that's basically it. Now we're going to wash everything. This, the tank body, the plow in the front, and all of the legs. We're gonna do that in 2 different styles of washes. First, a mid-brown wash. Now, when I did my King Tiger, I did it as a soft tone. Pete the Wargamer actually uses a mid-brown, and I think the mid-brown is just better than the soft tone. So we're gonna do a mid-brown over everything. That's gonna give it all grimy, dirty. Now, do not get it in your coils. Your rail gun is already done. You do not want to get it where you've done all your glazing. So you don't want to get it in there. You don't want to get it into the areas right here. So just be very, very careful when working through the turret or the gun right here, the rail gun. But everything else will be mid-brown. Then afterwards, we're going to use strong tone to just grime up areas that the soldiers would be walking. For instance, like this top right here, we're going to grime that up. On the tank itself, we might grime up, say, this door in the back. We might grime up like over here where they might step on stuff. Maybe we'll grime up this part right here. So it's just kind of how you feel with the strong tone. So once again, those colors are mid-brown and strong tone. Now, of course, since this is Army Painter Wash, we're going to do this 1-to-1 with quick shade mixing medium. So first mid-brown, then strong tone, mix them both 1-to-1 with the quick shade wash mixing medium, and cover the entire model. And then after you let that all dry, I'd highly recommend gluing the legs and gluing the plow in the front onto the main chassis of the tank. Because after that, we're just going to do some chipping and some last little augmentations to make the tank look a little neat, and then we are done with it. So just take your time with the washes, let the mid-brown dry before you do the strong tone so you don't, mix them all up together. You want the mid-brown dried before you put down the strong tone. So just take your time and work through these paints. There we are. We have the Zeus tank completely done here. Of course, I took off the legs that I had on these little pill bottles. These were really nice because all it did was you just had to super glue them into there. I did have to cut away the super glue stuff, but again, not too hard. But anyways, then I glued those all together. I glued the front little plate, the thing in place, and like I said, I did keep the turret unassembled. But anyways, again, the brown really looks very nice on this model. Very different to how we did the King Tiger. Yes, the soft tone that I put over it before the strong tone was very interesting, but I think the mid-brown is just much better for this color scheme. But like Tiger I accidentally did not use mid-brown, I actually used soft tone, and that still works pretty good too. I just think that the mid-brown just looks a little better. But anyways, I also did some little weathering. I put some of the strong tone over here, I did it over here, I did it in these little wells on the legs right here. I covered this in it, put some around it to show like steps and all that. Well, that's pretty much it for the paint and all of that. Now we're gonna do some basic chipping. And I'm gonna do this on camera here because I realized that most of what we painted has been off camera, but then again, it's slightly easier for me to do stuff off camera than always to paint it on camera. So let's do some chipping. First, we're gonna use Drake Tooth for our first color to chip. We're gonna do a full body chip. This is your choice on doing how much you want to do for the entire model for its chipping and all of that. So I've zoomed in a little bit more here for you all. Then I'm going to do some matte black over on the 2 things over here. Basically to show the buildup of soot. Even though, again, this is 1947, we have rail guns now and big mech robots swashing around in the battlefields of World War II. We still have traditional power. So let's get that look a little grimy. But besides that, that is pretty much it. That will be it for this model. So let's do some chipping. Let's start off with our matte black. I have a sponge here. and I gently tap the paint off the sponge onto my wet palette where I had it, and I'm just going to build up a little bit of that black here on the smokestack just to show, you know, that soot's built up over it from, you know, use in the battlefield. I'm just not going to go over crazy with it. Like for instance, we want to apply a little bit around this area just to show, you know, it's been sooted up. You know, some of that black soot coming off of the exhaust is just piling up over there. Because, you know, these are right above the smokestacks. So again, when doing any of this chipping or anything like that, it's on you how much you want to chip up the model. I wouldn't go crazy. Kind of what we have right now on the model, I'd say that's probably the best right now. You don't want to go over crazy with it. You just want to show, you know, some weathering nature of it. Now, let's move on to our drake tooth chipping. So once again, I got a sponge here, and I'm just gonna simply just start gently tapping around the model, just adding some chipping effects here, making it look like the paint is just chipping away. I'm probably gonna do some more damage around like this right here, just to show that, you know, this takes the most brunt of the damage, or like the most vector damage. So anyways, when I'm doing this, even though I got it on a sponge, I do sponge off access off of the model. So anyways, I'm going to go with that about right there. Again, I'm just kind of showing that, you know, this part gets chipped up the most, because again, this is like the front of the tank. So, you know, that takes probably the most beating in the battlefield. Now, once again, chipping is your go. If you only want to do a little bit of chipping, a lot of chipping, just don't go crazy. Now, if you're thinking, well, then I go crazy in the front, but again, that part is going to see the most battle damage out of anything that this tank might get into. You know, like it's going to take the most shells to the front, it's going to take the most damage to the front, explosives, anything like that. It's probably going to see the most damage out of anything. So just take your time, chip all you want to chip. I will not be chipping up the turret, I won't be doing that in any way, but after you're done with that, you can call this model good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that painting video. It was fun to give this late era camo scheme another try using the technique of putting blue tack down to cover the areas I want to stay the skeleton bone, and then using the mid brown instead of the soft tone. Now again, if you wanted to go more of what I did for my King Tiger video, go right ahead and do that as well. In this painting video, I know I didn't do a lot of painting on camera. Let me know if you guys want to see more of painting on the camera, like where I put the paints and all of that instead of just telling you where it goes. Or do you guys just want me to kind of tell you guys where the paint is going, and then you see where, you know, the final product, the final shot of where the paint is and how it looks all together. Let me know down in the comments which method you prefer, or do you want a mix of the methods? Again, let me know that down in the comments, and let me know your thoughts as well about this Zeus tank. This tank is very cool. It kind of wants me to get more Konflikt 47 stuff to paint up for you guys, because I think this is a cool model line from what I've seen online at Warlord Games web store. It looks really, really cool. Again, I like to play this game because you can just take your bolt action stuff and throw it into Konflikt 47, because that's what this is. It's just World War II, but extended to 1947 with tanks and sci-fi stuff that shouldn't be possible. It isn't even possible in 1945. Cool concept for a weird war game. Definitely looking forward to probably picking some more stuff up, painting it up, and maybe one day bringing this to the channel. So let me know down in the comments your thoughts on the tank, your thoughts on the paint scheme, what you would have changed, what you would have done, anything you think I could improve on, or anything like that. As well as the video, what can I improve on, what can I do differently, and all of that. And while you're commenting everything, do make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and make sure to ring the bell so you can notify when my videos go live for you. And of course, on to the glamour shots.